Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the MAQErCAST. I'm Carl, I'm going to be your host for today, a new host, and I'm joined by my good friend and old host, Sky, the CEO of Pareto. Firstly, I just want to say thanks to everyone who liked, subscribed, shared episode 1. We really, really appreciate it, and we've had really, really good responses from it. So thank you so much to begin with. And, well, we'll move on to the most important question of the day. That big icebreaker. What made you happy this week?
What made me happy this week? That's a good question. What made me happy this week? I booked a flight back home.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so Chinese New Year, which happens every year in January, February, going back to see the family.
Excellent, excellent.
Just as you went back for Christmas.
I did, yes, which was one of my happy places this week. Well, I've got 2, that is one of them. What made me happy this week, obviously, I've just come back from the UK, which I loved, caught up with family and friends, and it was amazing.
Right.
Second thing is much more trivial. The HBO adaptation of the Last of Us video game comes out next week, and I'm really hyped for it. So,
where can you get that?
HBO Go here.
Okay,
so
right,
I think it
Okay.
goes on the service on Monday, I think.
Yeah,
So,
I can't wait for that.
I will be watching that because I'm a big fan.
Did
of
you
the
play
games.
the game?
I did, yes, both.
Okay,
Yes.
I haven't, so...
I replayed part 1 quite recently. I bought the remaster because I'm silly with money.
So I would actually enjoy it more because I'll be going through the story completely empty.
So yeah, you'll be going in fresh. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm quite excited to see what the differences in it are going to be. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. So that's the ice shattered. So, now on to the questions. So can you tell us how you came to work at MAQE?
I remember that very well. I was running different startups, and the last one before I joined MAQE was a growth hacking consultancy.
Okay.
And we are it's Growth Hacking Asia, and we consult and train all over Asia. And one of the most common places that we go is in Bangkok, here in Thailand. And we've actually done training in MAQE's office, the old one. And so I saw the difference between my first training and the most recent talk that we did at Colosseum.
Oh, okay.
And I could see, how MAQE has grown, and at that point in time, I was thinking about what's next, and MAQE looked really interesting, and I wanted to stay here a bit longer. And see what happens, just because the market here is a bit bigger, and I wanted to see how different it is to Malaysia. Cool. And so that's why I started talking to Drew and Andreas, and then that's what happened next.
One thing led to another.
Exactly.
And you changed jobs.
Exactly. I went into a job.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I ended up started, actually. I kind of just came in for a meeting, and then 2 years later, I'm still here.
Came here for a meeting.
Yeah, it's kind of my story. So you've got a startup called Pareto. First of all, am I saying that correctly? Because mentally, I was calling it Pair 2 for about 6 months, I think, which is obviously wrong.
Like care. Yeah. It is Pareto, I guess, because it's not English. It's a European name of a person, actually. But I think I would like to start that it's not a startup. It's a startup technically, but I would like to refrain from calling it a startup because it's more of a concept of a microenterprise here within MAQE.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. So we actually MAQE actually wants to create multiple micro enterprises in MAQE, basically multiple startups, so that will be made out of multiple entities, basically diversifying MAQE and giving us more independence in terms of running your own thing and making different services for MAQE. And then we move on to Pareto. So Pareto technically means also another name is known as the 80-20 rule. So basically it's the concept of 80% of most of the value of your company comes from 20% of work. So that's what the concept is about. So basically, we want to be able to provide 80% value from 20% effort. That's concept.
Cool. So yeah, why Pareto? Why? What about that kind of stuck out to you?
Right. That's a great question. I think it's something that I've always been passionate about. It's been what I've been doing for a long time, since the consulting days. So basically, when I used to run startups, we would have an idea and we would have a website by the afternoon. It's something that it's a skill set that I have grown to build, to be able to test out ideas quickly. We had an idea for some kind of healthy food, and then we just built out a website, and then we put in a chat there, and then we see, hey, who's interested, and would you pay for it? So I got friends to pay me, just to test that it's true, people are willing to pay for it, and then I'll go build the company. And there were times where we actually returned the money to friends. Hey, we were actually just testing if you were committed, and now that you're committed, we're going to go build it. so that's kind of like the concept, and that's what I really want to build here in MAQE, because we are very good at customized building really powerful web apps and websites and mobile apps, and I find that. And that's why a lot of times when a customer comes in and they want to run really agile and really fast, that's not something we're able to cater to them. And that's a skill set I have. So I decided to, provide a few solutions to some clients, and it stick, and it's worked. So I've then turned it into a solution here in MAQE.
Cool. So what does Pareto actually do?
Right. So Pareto is basically a low-code solution. I simplifying it down to low-code. It might not be the best way to talk about it, perhaps, because low-code is a very general way of talking about reducing coding and using pre-built solutions. So if you understand WordPress, Wix, or Squarespace, Shopify, those are what I mean by low-code. And low-code has come a long way, and there are recently a lot of investments in the space, and there are a lot of different kind of solutions. So OutSystems would be one example, where it's more of a better building tool rather than a SaaS solution like Shopify, where you actually get a store immediately, and you just need to customize it to your liking. Okay. So that would be how I differentiate the different type of low codes. But what Pareto really does is we focus more on building MVPs, minimum viable product. Basically, if you have an idea and you want to test it quickly, we are able to build it for you, and focus more on the word MVP. So we don't want to build you this extremely complicated and advanced tool, and then you just want to test out the idea and you think it's bad, and then you turn it off. So the idea is enough features for you to actually test the business idea, validate the data, and then do you want to move forward, or what do you want to do next? So we focus more on that rather than building a powerful technology.
Okay, so would you say it's kind of like a rapid prototyping kind of?
Almost like rapid prototyping, because of how powerful the SaaS solutions right now, they're actually able to scale as well. Like Shopify has done a tremendous job. They've invested a lot into it, and it's almost more powerful. You can actually scale it in that sense.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there kind of for anyone out there who's not familiar with low code or no code, sort of what do those two terms mean, and how are they kind of different from each other? Right,
that's a good question. No code is a very strong word. It's almost like the word growth hacking. Like we always go into, and people say hacking. It's not really hacking. It's the same case here. It's not really no code. It's actually more powerful if you know a little bit of code. You can actually take out more from your solutions. But no code is just to grab your attention, and that also to attract people to use the platform.
Right.
even if you don't have coding knowledge.
Okay.
That's why they use the word no code. That's why I actually prefer low code than no code, because you can, if you know coding, you can pull out a lot more customizations, I guess, or making it fit to what you want to do. Like if you know a bit more coding, you can do a more complicated analytics tracking, for example, as compared to just putting in a pixel and then hope it collects the data that you want. But if you actually have a lot more knowledge, you can actually collect a lot more data, and that's why I prefer the low. So we are more low code. We are developers using a tool to speed up the development, to be able to focus on the business and validations. And I think also with how we're also unique in the sense that MAQE has always worked with more established businesses to be able to build them a solution. So we have always had experience working with corporates and large organizations on building technology. And they are very different from, let's say, a startup, right? Because they do have requirements. They need to follow securities policy, and they need privacy policies to be followed. And all that, we bring that into Pareto as well. So that helps us work with corporate innovation teams, where they come up with ideas and they want to test it. But they do have resources from different places, and how we can then take that resources and turn it into an MVP solution. So that's kind of like where we are really unique in that sense.
Oh, okay, so no code, while it might be harsh to say, is that kind of like a bit of a buzzword?
Exactly.
It's not really real. Actually, everything requires a little bit of code.
The answer would be yes and no. Like, they can definitely get away with no code. You can definitely do something with it immediately.
Oh, okay.
But if you do know a little bit of code,
it helps you get more out of.
There is much more. Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So Pareto is kind of the first MAQE venture off the production line, if you like. So has it been challenging being the first? And what were the challenges getting started with Pareto?
Right. So I think I can answer that also in the form of a yes and no answer. Yes, it's been challenging just because it's the first. There is no rules set in place. There's no how to do it and how do we. So at the same time of building it, I'm also part of the team, part of the innovation crew, where we're designing a program that can repeat this and make it repeatable. So at the same time I'm building Pareto, we're also trying figuring out the steps that I take. How would somebody else do it as well, right? So I can't just do something and then, hey, I can't repeat that for the next idea. So that's the challenging part. Basically, while we're building the startup, we're also building the format of how this will be replicated in MAQE.
So you're kind of building the plane on the runway. Right?
Exactly. So that is exactly what we're doing. And the no part is that because I am comfortable with ambiguity, and I actually like that we're going in with nothing, no rules set in place. So basically, I can do anything I want to make sure it works, and that's where it's cool. There's no like you can't do that as long as you prove that you can bring in customers and serve the customers well. That's basically the rule at this point. And so that's the easy part.
So you're the type of person that enjoys being a pioneer, essentially, like just going into new territory, doing new things.
Yeah, I actually enjoy that. Yeah.
Excellent. I am not like that. I get scared by the new, but yes, it's something you have to get over, I guess, if you're
right,
like forging ahead with these new ventures.
Right.
It's natural to have a bit of stress there.
Yeah.
It's really quite inspirational seeing you going out there and just dealing with ambiguity, as you say.
I think that's also something I've also learned recently, that there are different types of people. For example, I've just learned that there are people who can't talk to themselves in their head. So they actually have to speak out loud if they want to
Oh,
think.
really? Okay.
They have to think out loud. It's a thing. So I didn't know that existed. I thought everyone could have to talk to themselves inside their head, And I think that's also a thing that I've learned is that there are people who are uncomfortable with ambiguity because they prefer structure. And I think that's also a lot of times missing in the startup world in the beginning. Yes, it's great to really try whatever you want and get things going, but when you need to start growing, structure needs to start coming in, a little bit of a process needs to coming in so that it can be quickly trained and replicable as quick as possible, so that efficiency starts coming in. As compared to in the beginning, making sure that, okay, well, now we've proven that it works, now let's become more efficient. That's when structure is needed, and that's when we need structured people. So if you go in with no structure, everyone has no structure and they're comfortable that way, it becomes very hard for structured people to come in, because you won't understand them and say, why do you need me to tell you what to do there? Like, just do it. Like, but what? What are the limitations and stuff like that? And that's when I think that's why every team, if there is a balance between structured person and someone who's comfortable with ambiguity, that is a perfect team.
And what you're doing is going to help other ventures following behind you, because you've already kind of done a bit of trial and error, tried some things that maybe not work, tried some things that have worked. So you can almost make a document of that process for people to follow.
Exactly. So I think that's what we're doing right now with the innovation crew.
Cool. So what inspires and motivates you personally in terms of work and just outside of work in regular life?
I think right now, so maybe that's a very broad question. So I will try. It is.
I apologize.
I will try and go with a more, pick one thing to talk about. And that one thing is what I've learned recently from reading the book E-Myth. And the one thing that I learned after all these years is that if you have to work in your business, it's not a business. You are basically an employee. So if your business can run without you, that's a business. And I think that's what I've been passionate about since last year when that revelation came, in that I want to be able to build replicable businesses, basically build real businesses, the ones that I don't have to be in. And there was a thing I wanted to say there. I've been in the service industry for a long time. So consulting, training, building websites and technology, those are all services. Someone pays for my time to do something. And I think services are very difficult to scale because it depends on manpower. So the more business you have, the more people you have to hire. And I think that's why I'm more passionate when I think about building a business that is replicable and it can actually work on itself, is basically building productized services. I'm still passionate about services because services are able to provide exact value for whoever needs our help. But productizing it helps in many ways, right? It helps streamline the process, it speeds up the delivery, and you can actually promise value because you productize it. So that's one of the things that I'm passionate about recently in that sense. But if you want to talk about other sense, it would be like just last week I have learned about water.
Water, okay.
So water, let me have some. So what's a safe and healthy drinking water? So the reason why I did that, because we're in Bangkok and same like Malaysia, there is a popularity of getting water filters because the tap water, they're not drinkable, right? Yeah. But they are safe. But they're not healthy to drink. So, I've been looking for a filter, and I wanted to understand what the options actually meant. And so my conclusion out of that was that, yes, the best filter out there is osmosis filter, but they are so good that they remove all the minerals from the water. So it becomes soft water. So now what happens is that if you drink the water with no minerals in the water, it's almost like pure water. Now the water is going to pull minerals out of your body.
Oh, okay.
Because of the osmosis process, right?
Right,
Because,
yeah.
So actually the best and healthy water is mineral water. So so I found the opportunity and was thinking about it to actually build a startup to sell packets of mineral salts that you can put into filtered water.
Oh, okay.
Then you'll have healthy drinking water.
That's a very cool
So
idea.
that's on the side.
Gonna be the water filter baron of Asia right here, I think. So, in terms, you've got Pareto, your venture, you work at MAQE. Do you work separately from MAQE now, or are you still kind of integrated within MAQE? Do you still work together with MAQE?
Right. So that's a good question. No, we are not separated. Just because, yes, the inspiration is that we can create separate entities and they can stand alone and start bringing a business, and then we can co-collaborate between the businesses, which is the higher model, which is what we're actually aiming for. But we are not there yet. At this point, it is more efficient to start being part of MAQE at this point. So we take away all the complexity of starting being a separate entity and just focus on building and validating the idea and the concept. And when the startup itself has proven itself, or where it's reached a space or a situation or stage where it can be its own entity, we actually have in the program we actually allow that to happen.
Okay.
So, but at this point, it is still part of MAQE.
Does that give you a bit more freedom to focus on the concept a little bit? Like you being within MAQE is almost like a sort of, there's a safety element to that, and you're safe to kind of experiment a bit with Pareto. Would that be accurate?
Yes, that will be super accurate, and that is done purposefully. Because again, we are a development agency. We hired a lot of high skilled people, which means we hire a lot of structured people, people who don't like taking risks in that sense, and creating this safe sandbox to actually test out your idea, because they are very skilled in the things that they do, which means that the value that they can create is really good. And we want that to be able to happen, but at the same time allow them to understand that they can take risks in a sandbox. So that's how we've kind of like developed this at this point. Yeah.
So as we were sort of saying earlier, you're kind of building the plane on the runway, and we have structured people. The structure you're putting in is kind of going to help those structured people to start their own ventures.
Exactly.
Again, is that kind of accurate, or am I a bit off base?
That is exactly right. So because we found that it's not everyone, but obviously a majority of us are structured, and that allows them to actually take an idea and try it out. And that's what we want to promote right now. But if there are people who would rather go in and say, I want to do it my way, that's also okay. It's not a rule. We are creating a guideline in that sense. Like, if you don't know what to do, here's a guide. But if you know and you want to run, go ahead. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that kind of helps me when eventually I start my own venture, which is coming soon. It kind of helps me to see someone who's doing it, someone who's actively out there working on his product.
Right.
Almost gives me a set of steps to follow. So I think that's going to be very helpful to people at MAQE who want to kind of get something going. And we've already had a few little studio type meetings, haven't we, to kind of encourage ideas and innovation.
Yeah, I hope it would be whatever we created. And I think recently I saw a TikTok video that talked about like a company that focus on not just hierarchical leaders, basically giving more power to everyone to lead their projects or concept or idea. And part of that is also identifying everyone's different skill sets in different places. Like, yeah, sure, you are known as the marketing guy, but you've had so much more other skill sets or other experience to offer, and we don't explore that because we've given you a label in that sense. And I think, but when we're building this strategy or guideline, we are also looking at exploring everyone's other superpower within the company so that they can be mentors to different startups. Like, if somebody wanted to start up maybe if I want to do a water thing, maybe if I look through the list of different people in the company who have experience in chemists, maybe they've actually studied chemist before they became a programmer, that's someone I could talk to. So, so part of the guideline is also exploring other people's superpower within MAQE, and then, hopefully we can help each other grow.
So part of those guidelines is to kind of like encourage people to think outside of their role and draw on their previous experience and bring that forwards into their venture, right?
Exactly. I think we don't have to keep it in a box of a venture. Basically, where the concept that we're trying here is basically to be able to get close to our customers, understand their needs, and then provide a solution and provide value. And I think I think if we follow with that basic guideline, it can become a venture or it can become a solution. That's okay. Right?
So it's finding unmet needs and then meeting those needs. Basically.
Exactly. Yeah, perfect.
It's almost like I know what I'm talking about.
almost like a marketing guy putting a keyword in his video.
Almost.
SEO in video.
So what are you doing to get traction and momentum for Pareto?
Great. Like that. Right now, we are looking at partnerships. We're partnering with different innovation companies where they provide innovation consulting or help companies create innovation within the company. And we are partnering with them to basically be part of that process, so that during the process of coming up with the ideas, we can come in and help them understand where it is possible in terms of feasibility and what's a good solution at this point as an MVP using digital technologies as a solution. And so we want to be part of that process in the beginning, because we as in Pareto, we feel that a lot of times people come to us when the concept is kind of solidified and they can't really change it anymore. When sometimes a true MVP doesn't even have to be a website. It could just be a landing page with a chat. And that's kind of like the MVP. And or maybe it could also be just a line chat group. We've had businesses come to us where they've done business only in line chat, and then now they want to scale up. And that's why an MVP could just basically run in a line chat as a concierge service. So that's kind of like where we're going at this point, and we want to run more events. Basically, be part of the conversation of innovation and new ideas, and basically validating new concepts. But using MVP to actually achieve that. Basically using a low-code solution to quickly, back in the day, what we would do is using an unbounce where you just create a landing page that's not a website, then kind of put in a bit.ly link rather than buy a domain name, and then you kind of launch an idea that way. You don't even need to buy a domain name, and you can actually launch an idea and actually send it out to a few friends, chat, and say, hey, what do you think about the idea? So that can be done in a few hours, kind of thing. So that's kind of like where we want to be in terms of the conversation. And in terms of what we think an MVP really is. Doesn't always have to be a full website. So that's kind of like be part of the conversation, run events, talks, be part of talks, be part of the community. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. So would you say your customers don't even really need like a totally firm concept in mind when they approach you? They might have a vague idea of something they want to try.
Yeah.
But you'll kind of like help them see that through and get them to a place they want to go.
Exactly. So we want to be part of that process in the beginning as early as possible in that thought. And because and MAQE itself, whenever we we want to build a solution for a client. We don't just say we'll build based on your requirement. We build based on your business requirement, and based on how do you measure success in a project, and we build from there rather than your feature list, because we want to be able to understand what is the value you're trying to achieve, and then we will come with our expertise with technology and digital solutions and say, hey, this is the best way to move forward with technology. So that's why.
Cool. So quite often, sometimes when people come with a feature list in mind, they're very fixed on that.
Exactly.
So you kind of want to just say, like,
hey,
you don't even really need that. You can kind of test everything here.
Exactly. That's very true. And that's why we want to be part of that conversation early.
So Pareto is just getting started, and this is another very broad question, which I do apologize for. But where do you see it going in the future?
I think in line with the previous answer about what I'm focusing on at this point, is I'm trying to find a point where Pareto can be a productized service that we're able to provide faster solutions. Right now, I can't really go out there and say, hey, I can build you a website or an MVP in a month. And that's something that, because we don't have a repeatable process at this point or yet. So that's where I want to see Pareto going, basically be able to provide value to more market and be the go-to company when you think about a new idea and you want to test it out and you need a tech partner. Pareto will be where you want to go to.
So you want to work with other innovators, basically, that are looking to get out there, do it quickly, get actionable data.
Exactly. So I want to be able to work with people who teach innovation, people who are running innovation programs, startup programs that you want to churn out MVPs and you want to test out and validate ideas, or even like scalable type of low-code solutions that you would think about MAQE. And that's where I see myself, or I see Pareto going in the next few years.
So you're really busy, really, really busy, as we've established during this video podcast. I want to thank you for your time. Where can people find out more about Pareto?
Right. You can check it out at paretonow.com. That would basically give you a rough idea about what we do. And if you basically have a new idea, you want to talk about what's true MVP, come talk to us. Like, it's free to talk to us. We really like talking to people with new ideas and how do we get it done. Yeah.
He's a chatty guy, so just get in touch. If you want to know anything else about MAQE, visit MAQE.com. We publish insights every week around digital experience and e-commerce. And if you're into that, we've got you covered. So come and visit us. If you've got any questions for the podcast, email hello@MAQE.com with the subject line podcast, so I know to put your question in. And anything else, leave in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, share. I want to thank everyone for their time, especially if you watched episode 1 and liked and shared that. Really, really happy with it. Thank you for watching. Stay positive. Bye-bye.